Welcome back to Biz Politics, everyone. My name is Max, and it's been a little while. I do apologize. I know there's been a whole lot going on in the political world, but I've been covering a whole lot of stuff that's been happening in the audio industry. So you can check out my other podcast, Biz Audio. That's B-I-Z Audio, and you can even check it out, bizaudio.com.au. But anyway, let's forget about that. Let's hop right into politics. Now, we're going to focus on UK politics because that's something that is very, very interesting currently going on. And in particular, the Clacton by-election. If you're not familiar with UK politics, the current government is the Labour government. And their version of the Liberal Party is a party called the Conservatives. And their version of One Nation is called the Reform Party. Very similar situation in the UK to Australia, whereas a third party is on the rise, One Nation over here, and the Reform Party over there. The Conservative Party had a smashing defeat. They were in government for 40 years. They had a smashing defeat at the 2024 general election, going down to 121 seats from around 390. So yes, a massive, massive defeat there. Labour landslide, first one in 14 years, of course, jumping up to 411 seats. Reform UK is now sitting at around 8 seats, with the exception of their leader, Nigel Farage, who recently re-entered Parliament. Now, this is an interesting one. The Reform leader, he was favoured to be Prime Minister when the Labour leader, Keir Starmer, was still in office. He stepped down, and the now popular Andy Burnham has stepped in. And he has proven to be successful so far. The Labour polls have shown that if an election was held, Labour would retain government on, of course, a reduced majority or minority. And then we come to the opposition, where we could have the Conservatives retaining opposition or the Reform UK party forming an official opposition. But it's interesting to see that if the Conservatives were able to form a coalition with the Reform Party, well, then that could be an entirely different story altogether. We could have a coalition government, Labour as the opposition, the SNP and the Liberal Democrats are somewhere around 60 to 70 seats. And it would, of course, I believe it would be a minority government position. But then again, I don't know. We'll see what happens. The polls are very interesting, so keep an eye on them. We've seen a spike in Labour, a drop in Reform, and a slow rise of the Conservatives. So, what's happening with Nigel Farage? I mentioned it earlier, and this has got to be my favourite by-election of all time. Not just Australian politics and UK politics, but internationally. The time that I've been covering political events, this has got to be my favourite by-election. So, we have Nigel Farage resigned due to not declaring some political donations. So he resigned, and none of the major parties, the Conservatives, Liberals, Restore, Liberal Democrats, SNP, of course, they were never going to stand. But it was basically Nigel Farage going to take it home until a challenger approached. Count Binface has become a new household name in UK politics. He's ran in many by-elections and elections, primarily against leaders of the parties. He ran against Rishi Sunak in 2024. And then I'm pretty sure he ran against Boris Johnson, then Prime Minister, in 2019. Only achieving about 0.1% of the vote every time. And then he ran against Andy Burnham in the Makerfield by-election, a few months ago. But the Clacton by-election was a race between Reform's Nigel Farage and Count Binface from the Count Binface party. Well, I think it was safe to say that Nigel Farage was always going to retain his seat, but Count Binface exceeded expectations, gaining around 26 or 27% of the vote. Keep in mind that their voting system in the UK is very different. They do first past the post. We do preferential voting here in Australia. So they have a two-party preferred count. Over there, it's basically, think of it as whoever wins on primaries is elected. That's exactly how it is, actually. Nigel Farage on 63.3% of the vote, up 17.1 points. And this was the largest by-election ever. I believe there was 31 or more candidates. Lots from the monster raving loony party. Then we also had Reclaim, the SDP, Rejoin EU, which Rejoin EU actually got third place with 1.4%. Count Binface on 9,455 votes. And Reform's Nigel Farage on 22,239 votes, regaining the seat of Clacton, which wasn't really a surprise at all. I think there might have been a different outcome if the Conservatives, Labour, and the Liberal Democrats decided to run, or even Restore, because they're doing really well in the polls. But I think it was wise of them not to run. They said that they were never going to actually stand in the election because it was Nigel Farage's little game and they weren't going to waste taxpayer money or anything like that. But it was really funny to see that people actually voted. That many people of Clacton voted for Count Binface. And I just want to keep in mind, the turnout did drop to 44.4%. That's down 14.3 points. So it's not compulsory to vote in the UK. The current UK Parliament looks like the government with the Labour Party, leader Andy Burnham on 404 seats. The official opposition with Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative Party, 118 seats. The Liberal Democrats, 71. Reform UK, 8. The SNP on 8. The Democratic Unionist Party on 5. The Greens on 5. Independent Alliance, 4. Plaid Cymru, 4. Social Democratic and Labour Party, 2. Jeremy Corbyn's Your Party on 2. Alliance Party, 1. Restore Britain, 1. Traditional Unionist Voice, 1. Ulster Unionist Party, 1. And the Independents on 7. And the presiding officer as the Speaker on 1. And the House of Lords is very different. I don't even want to touch on that. As it's not voted members. It is, well, to an extent, it is voted. But the people do not get to vote in that. It is appointed. You are appointed. And let's not even get to the point about the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, being appointed to the Lords as one of the last-minute appointments of the of the last Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. Oh, well, we'll see what happens over in the UK. Let's chat about Australian politics. Warren Pickering has been announced as the One Nation Victoria leader for the upcoming November campaign, and he will be standing for the seat of Pakenham. So he is the Victorian state president, and he's also the leader of One Nation Victoria. It's nice to see that One Nation is investing in some leaders for their state branches. Currently, they've only got James Ashby leading Queensland, Corey Bernardi leading South Australia, Warren Pickering, of course, with Victoria, and Rod Caddy's leading Western Australia. And I'll get to the Western Australian side of politics soon, but I just want to chat a bit more about what's happening over in Victoria. I don't think I mentioned this last time, and I didn't get a chance to because I haven't put out an episode since. But over in Victoria, we've had a change of leaders yet again. Jacinta Allen resigned after a leadership spill was brought against her by Deputy Ben Carroll. She realised she didn't have confidence of the party, so she resigned, and she's also not recontesting her seat. I think it's Bendigo East. So, Ben Carroll is the new Premier of Victoria. But will he really be in for that long? I'm not too sure. The polls say no, but we'll see what happens in November. We have Warren Pickering now on about 18% as favoured Premier, Ben Carroll leading, and Jess Wilson dropping back ever since Warren Pickering was announced. Interesting to see how One Nation can take away from the popular coalition over in Victoria. I'm not saying the coalition is popular on a federal level, but in Victoria, they definitely are. Alright, let's move over to Western Australian politics, my favourite part. There's a by-election coming up at the end of the month, caused by the resignation of Labor's Paul Papalia. It's the seat of Secret Harbour, and he held the seat since 2007. The by-election will be held on Saturday the 29th of August, and there's no polling for it yet from what I've seen. But the candidates standing, or the candidates that I think have a great chance at winning, is WA Labor's Georgia Tree, which I'll get to in a second, Liberal Party's Ryan Robertson, and One Nation's Luke Hertigan. I'll start with Labor. Georgia Tree, from what I've seen, has done an amazing job of avoiding the media. when she's out at polling booths. She's been avoiding scrutiny when she's at press conferences. They wrap it up just as questions are starting to get asked. But I haven't been keeping a good eye on it. But from what I've heard, she's not the favourite to win. So, the Liberal Party's Ryan Robertson, I haven't heard too much on him. But they also have a good chance at winning. But then I think who has the best chance at winning is One Nation. They're doing incredibly well in South Australia. Keep in mind, they did extremely well last year at the state election in the Legislative Council, gaining 2 seats, and also gaining a seat in the Senate at the 2025 Australian federal election. So, could Luke Hurtigan win? Well, it always comes down to preferences. But he's doing a good job out there. He's an Anytime Fitness franchisee, so that could prove useful, as he's quite well known within the community. And I've also heard rumours that Labor's Georgia Tree lives about 50 or more kilometres away from the electorate. So that'll be a difficult one to try and convince voters to elect her in. But anyway, we'll see what happens on Saturday, August 29th. And then, last but not least, we arrive at US politics, where the grass is not always greener over on the other side. We have the midterm elections coming up in November, where I'm getting a fair bit of mixed polling. But majority of the polls say that the Democrats are going to regain control of the House and the Senate. But if not the House, then definitely the Senate, and vice versa. Could it happen? Well, I think it really depends on the candidates that the Republicans and the Democrats pick, and there are primaries going on right now, and really also depends on what Trump does leading up to the midterm elections. I've heard the Speaker, Mike Johnson, say that if the Democrats regain control, then it's over for Trump. I don't know particularly how much I agree with that, but I think it's definitely likely that the Democrats could regain control. They're in a very good position to do so. This could be a big turning point in US politics for Congress, and it's been really interesting to see how people are voting for the candidates. We've gotten lots of results come in that are showing that current incumbent members are not being pre-selected for their seat or position, which it could be a different tactic that both parties are taking. And as from what I've seen, it's very, very difficult for an independent candidate to be elected to Congress. And I think we only see that with Bernie Sanders. Correct me if I'm wrong. So independents don't have a massive hold on US politics compared to the UK or Australia. And as media companies in the US are very politically aligned, like they're very, very vocal about who they support, I wouldn't always 100% trust the polling unless it's from maybe a third-party company. Again, I'm not completely involved with US politics, so make sure to correct me if I'm wrong or if you disagree. But from what I understand, then yes, I still stand by everything I say today. So to recap, we covered UK politics, we covered Victorian elections, we covered Western Australia by-elections, federal polling for Australia, and a bit of US politics. Next episode, we'll continue to cover what's happening in Australia with polling. I want to really dig in deep to the federal polling that we've been receiving. And is Pauline Hanson really going downhill? My short answer is I don't believe so, but I'll chat to you next time about that. Hope you all enjoyed this episode of Biz Politics. Make sure to leave a comment and like at biz_politics on Instagram. And as always, it's Max. I'll catch you all next time.